I used to tell people the secret to my long relationship was sex and makeup sex. Turns out I wasn't too far off on that. That's because a lot of us with bipolar relationships tend to have really passionate relationships filled with fighting and making up or breaking up and getting back together. And even when we don't actually leave, we may pack our bags, threaten to leave, or make you think we're going to leave and then make up with you. No matter how it happens, breakups are very common in bipolar relationships, and if you're married, you're 2 to 3 times more likely to get divorced. But why? Most people assume that it's all due to the bipolar partner's mood swings, but sometimes it's more than that. Today, I'm going to talk about why our relationships tend to fail, the bipolar breakup cycle, and what you can do to make your bipolar relationship stronger. I'm Patty, the girl with blue energy. I have bipolar disorder and make videos about mental health and personal growth. Let's start out by talking about who breaks up with whom in a bipolar relationship. So there are no research studies that go into this relationship dynamic. They don't explain which partner initiates the breakup in a bipolar relationship. But we do know that bipolar relationships tend to fail more frequently and that we have a higher divorce rate. There are a number of reasons for why people break up when they're in a bipolar relationship, and breakups can be initiated by either partner, but usually they're for different reasons. One reason we might have a breakup is because of our emotional instability. Our emotional instability can cause our partner to become the stabilizer or even the caregiver in the relationship. And that can make them feel resentful or like the relationship is lopsided, where they're caring for us and not getting their own needs met in return. And they may want more than that in the relationship. But the emotional instability can cause problems for us as well, because when we're emotionally unstable, we may start more fights, cause more problems, and we may not be able to be objective or have clear discussions with our partners because we're too unstable to really listen and work on things. Another issue people often have in bipolar relationships is financial issues. So bipolar people tend to be careless with money. We may go on spending sprees, or we may quit our job impulsively, and the person who's not bipolar is stuck being responsible, taking up the slack when it comes to money, and dealing with the stress of it all. So that's another reason for why there are breakups in bipolar relationships. We may have unequal responsibilities. I mentioned earlier that the partner of the bipolar person may become the caregiver, which this can mean they take on all the financial responsibilities or take on all the housework responsibilities to take the burden off of their partner. So things are unequal. But it can also go the other way, because sometimes the bipolar person takes on all the housework and the kids and the cooking, and so the unequal may not feel unequal to their partner because it's housework, but it may feel unequal to the person with bipolar disorder. Mood changes are certainly a factor in why we break up. I've read a lot of sources that say we break up when we're manic or break up when we're depressed. That certainly can be true, but I think typically when people break up, they have some underlying reasons for it that aren't just a mood change. I didn't just wake up this morning and I had a mood and I broke up with my partner. Sexual issues can be a big problem in bipolar relationships. This might surprise you, but I read about it in a number of studies on bipolar relationships and bipolar marriages. Both partners in a bipolar relationship may have issues with sexual dissatisfaction. I'm going to explain why. People with bipolar disorder tend to have issues with hypersexuality. So that can show up in a relationship in a couple of different ways. One, we can end up cheating or having an affair on our partner, which obviously is going to affect the relationship. But the other problem is that we can have episodes of hypersexuality when we're manic, especially when we go into a relationship. So we may go, and have a really high libido during those times. And our partner may like that. And then all of a sudden that disappears when we go through a down spell. And the partner may not understand that it's no, we're not longer attracted to you. We just don't have that hypersexuality going on anymore. The other issue that can happen is some of our meds affect our libido, so we may have sexual dysfunction because we're taking a med that significantly decreases our sex drive. And if you pair that with somebody who went into a relationship with hypersexuality, that can definitely make an impact on your relationship dynamics, especially if your relationship was built off of sexual chemistry. Those are some of the reasons why we might have problems in our relationships and why we might break up. I did read some interesting research between men and women in bipolar relationships. Now, this is about the partners of the person with bipolar disorder, but they have different things that stress them out in the relationship. If you are a man and you're involved with a female with bipolar disorder, you may be more likely to be stressed out about money and finances or career instability, like if she just up and quits her job and now you're stuck paying all the bills. Women, on the other hand, well, they're also stressed about money and finances, but they were also stressed by household chores being divided up unevenly. Of course, the obvious reason that people think bipolar relationships end in a breakup is because of our mood swings. Either because our mood swings are too difficult for our partners to handle, so they break up with us, or they believe we break up with our partners during a mood swing. So when we're manic, we may be impulsive and decide to just break up with our partner. Or when we're depressed, we may think it's our partner's fault and we may not be thinking as clearly, so we break up with our partner. So that's the thought process, that our mood swings are largely responsible for our breakups. And I've seen a lot of places that suggest that we break up with you when we're manic or when we're depressed. And I disagree with this. I do believe that mood swings, mania and depression can contribute to the reasons we break up with someone. But I don't think that is the reason that we break up with our partners. I think what happens is we may have problems in the relationship, and when we get manic or hypomanic, we have the confidence or the impulsivity to take an action. So that's when we might take the action to break up, but it's probably not the cause of the failure of the relationship. The same with depression, that maybe when we take the action, but I don't believe that our mood swings all on their own are what causes a breakup in a bipolar relationship. Something you see in a lot of bipolar relationships is a pattern known as the bipolar breakup cycle. And what this typically looks like is a bipolar couple will have some sort of fight, and the bipolar person will break up. They'll have a short breakup, and then they'll work things out, and they'll make up, and they'll get back together. And they'll do this on repeat. Well, when I first started reading about this pattern, I thought, well, this isn't me. And I've seen a lot of relationships that are more like my pattern, where they do have a long-term relationship without the breakups, but the same pattern. So what it might look like for you is a pattern of fighting, thinking about leaving, having a big argument, making up, and getting solid again, then having another fight, make up, and maybe not break up, but have this fight and then get back together emotionally. So we can have this pattern, whether it's an actual leaving the relationship and getting back together, or just having frequent fights and making up. But this is really common in bipolar relationships, and it's usually because there's some problems in the relationship with your communication or reasons that you keep having these fights, arguments, and breakups that you need to resolve. If you want to end the cycle of breaking up and making up, you need to change some things. And this is what I would do and have done in my own life to change the cycle. The first thing I recommend for everyone in a bipolar relationship is to get a therapist. And honestly, both partners need a therapist, because whether you're the person with bipolar or the person in the relationship with a bipolar partner, you need some support and guidance. And a therapist can do that and can give you tools and tips and just an ear to talk to about your relationship and how you can make it better. The next thing I would suggest is getting your emotions stable. And when I say this, I mean this for both partners. The bipolar person, you need to be taking your meds, going to see your therapist, getting enough sleep, doing the things that keep you emotionally stable and balanced. But for the partner, our emotions can affect you. So you need to make sure you're doing things to keep yourself emotionally stable. That might be taking a break from us, or having some friends, having a therapist, going for a walk, exercising, journaling, all of those type of things. Whatever it takes to keep both partners stable, you guys both should be doing. And the big one is good communication. If you're in a relationship with someone with bipolar disorder, you both need to communicate with each other well. One problem you see in this dynamic is that, honestly, our partners are often scared to tell us how they feel, so they don't, and resentment builds up, or they may start getting angry and eventually explode. So both partners need to communicate with each other in calm and gentle ways. A therapist can be a good resource for how to communicate better so that your needs are being met and your partner knows how you feel. So you're not holding things back because you're scared to tell your partner, and they're not holding things back from you because they don't want you to be upset either. Some of the things you might need to talk about are going to feel uncomfortable or delicate, like talking about your sex life, or the fact that the household chores aren't being divided evenly, or that you're unhappy with your partner about something. These aren't always easy subjects to talk about. But I found the more I have these difficult conversations with my partner, the more he changes and the more I change, and the happier our relationship is. Sometimes it is time to end the relationship. Sometimes we don't have a breakup problem, we have a makeup problem. So we have an instinct to leave the relationship. Either partner might have the instinct to leave, that I want to leave this relationship, so they initiate the breakup. But then there's some sort of pull that brings you back together, and then you have a fight again and you break up again. So sometimes the partner that is initiating the breakup knows what they want. They want to leave the relationship, but they don't stick with it, or they don't have the support to stick with it, or the other partner pulls them back into the relationship, even though the relationship isn't healthy. If your relationship has a pattern of breaking up and getting back together, there's clearly some problems in the relationship. I'm not going to be the one to tell you whether or not you should or shouldn't break up with your partner, but what I will suggest is that you get a therapist and you talk to them and discover by talking it out whether or not this relationship is worth going back to. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of research on bipolar relationships or bipolar breakups, but you can have a happy relationship even if you have bipolar disorder. But both partners in the relationship need to be invested and put in the work. When you have a bipolar relationship, you really need a lot of communication and really good, clear communication. If you work on that and the bipolar person works on stabilizing their moods, you can have a really happy, loving relationship, even if you have bipolar disorder, even if you have a history of making up and breaking up. So your relationship doesn't have to keep repeating the pattern of makeup and breakup, or fighting and making up. You can have a healthier, happier, more loving relationship if you work on it. Thanks, guys. I hope you found this video informative. If you appreciate what I'm trying to do on my channel, please click the like button and, of course, subscribe. And be sure to check out my playlist on bipolar relationships coming up next.